scenario. I think that's really important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Are we all set, Mr. Smith, you think?
I think so.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I want to now yield to Senator King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I'd like to start with a question to Mr. Dorji or Markashi. Why? Why is China doing this? China's a massive country. Why are they wasting all this time and energy on a country of 6 million people on the very edge of their sphere of influence? What's this all about?
Yeah, I can take that. I would say, I mean, Tibet is of strategic importance for China for many reasons. I mean, the size of Tibet itself, if you look at the map of the Tibetan Plateau, is as big almost as Western Europe. And for centuries, that region has served also as a buffer zone with India and with other regions in Asia. So the decision of the Communist Party 70 years ago, right immediately after the revolution took over, they decided to invade Tibet as a plan really to consolidate the rule and protect itself from external influence. There had been influence in Tibet from the British. India had a special relationship also with the region. So there is big geopolitical reasons why Tibet is important. Also, Tibet is an area of immense natural resources. 8 of the major rivers in Asia come from Tibet, from the Mekong River to Brahmaputra and other places. And as many analysts say, it's possible that the next wars will not be about oil, but it will be about water because of global warming and the scarcity of water in the region. And we have seen recent episodes in which there have been reports in which the Chinese government has used the dozens of dams that they have built on the rivers in Tibet, which have been used to slow the flow of water to downstream countries. Last year, there was a drought in Cambodia, in Vietnam, on the Mekong, while apparently in the northern part of the river, there was a lot of water. Then there is the recent, as you have seen, the recent skirmishes and fighting at the border with India. That is mostly about the border that previously was with Tibet. And in military terms, if you control a plateau, you are an advantage point from the military point of view. Then there is another issue. I think it's a cultural issue. Every authoritarian government has an inclination to try to control spiritual power. We see that many conflicts in the world are connected to religion and the need to control religion. So the Tibetan identity is strictly connected to Tibetan Buddhism. So for them, for the Chinese Communist Party, first of all, was an ideological struggle to try to destroy religion as part of their ideology. But then when they realized that the Tibetan connection with religion is so deep, now they have moved to the idea of trying to have total control on religion and use religion as a way to legitimize their power. Their problem is that the Dalai Lama is the most respected, Buddhist leaders for the Tibetan people, both and for Tibetan Buddhists, not only all over the world, but still inside Tibet. So they lack legitimacy. And so the call for dialogue with the Dalai Lama, the goal for a political solution actually would be in the Chinese interest if they really want to try to, stabilize the situation. But unfortunately, what we have seen, even at the last, Tibet World Forum, is that the Chinese government continues to try to pursue assimilation and total control to maintain their grip on power.
And if I could add very quickly to Matteo's answer, that's exactly the reason why China is throwing caution to the wind and going all out in Tibet and in East Turkestan. And legitimacy at the heart of it. The Chinese government knows that it has no legitimacy in Tibet and Xinjiang. And because of that problem, it makes them very insecure. And it's Beijing's fundamental insecurity that makes the Chinese government pursue these genocidal policies, because at the end of the day, their goal is to destroy the Tibetan people and the Uyghur people as an ethnic group or as a religious group, because they want Xinjiang without Uyghurs and Tibet without Tibetans.
It was interesting. You used the word insecure. That was the exact word I was thinking of. It's an insecure regime that's has so much power and so many people and so much economic power that can't tolerate the slightest deviation. That's an indication of insecurity. Let me ask, and I don't know if any of you know the answer to this, but uh, 20 years ago, or a little more than 20 years ago, China was admitted to the WTO. The assumption was that integrating China into the world economic community would lead toward a liberalization, a kind of opening up of a market society, which would lead then to some level of democratization. Manifestly, that hasn't worked. And the only real, we can't intervene directly in the internal affairs of another country or how they're relating to their neighbors. On the other hand, trade is certainly an important part of this message. How much of China's economy, if anyone knows, is dependent upon exports to the rest of the world, to America or the rest of the world? Does anyone have a guess or knowledge of that? What I'm getting at is, it strikes me that the one real power the rest of the world has is economic. And if China's substantially dependent upon exports, the rest of the world can say, we're not going to buy anymore until you start acting like a mature, responsible, and secure country. Um, and, you know, if you had a store in your town that was discriminating terribly against its employees and was doing all kinds of human rights abuses, people in town wouldn't buy from them anymore. And then if they wanted to stay in business, they'd have to clean up their act. Any thoughts on that? Because that strikes me. And we can do sanctions and we can do resolutions and such, but the power of the economy, it seems to me, is the most substantial power. And it shouldn't be just America. It should be a worldwide program. If we do it alone, then it loses its strength, it seems to me. Any thoughts from the witnesses?
I would only say that the power of economic sanctions against a regime like China would have worked effectively in the 80s or in the 90s. Today, I think we have to think larger than economic sanctions alone if it is to work. And Ai Weiwei, just in an interview this past week, has said it is too late to curb or contain the Chinese regime's power. And I think it is actually too soon to give up. And because America and the liberal democratic order in the West was partly responsible for bringing the genocidal regime of China into the global community of nations back in the day, I think we also have a fundamental responsibility right now to make sure that this regime changes its behavior. And in order to do that, I think economic sanctions are a great place to start if and only if we think beyond that and start thinking about moral, political, cultural isolation of this regime, the way we did it with the regime in the dictatorial regime in South Africa during apartheid. I think we have to reach back into history and look for some of these more expansive measures of isolating the regime.
Thank you. Very, very helpful.